Welcome back to another episode of Arthritic Bourbon Bikepackers. And actually, maybe it's technically whiskey today and not bourbon.
Yeah, it's
Leopold.
Yeah,
or something like that.
It's almost bourbon.
Irish Coffee Day. It's December, but it's actually really nice temperature-wise. It's like 60 degrees or something like that. But it's kind of rainy and cloudy. So we decided to come to the Bicycle Bat Cave and do a podcast. Because we haven't done one of these together in a while.
Yeah.
It's been a bit. And I was thinking back about in 2021 that you had done a ton of like things, solo type trips that we hadn't really ever talked about.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about the Florida trip because there were some things that happened. So
It's kind of remarkable events.
Set this up for us as far as like, when did you start thinking about this and decide to do this thing?
Well, I have a forgiving wife, which is why I can do these things. She continually allows me to jeopardize my health and well-being and forgives me when I mess something up. So I have been thinking about it for at least a couple months. There's always a back burner thought of like, when can I go to Florida to do something and just run off and cycle. Why Florida? Because it's flat, it's warm, and it's predictable, you know? So this particular ride was in May of this year, but I think it had been on the cooker for a couple months, I think.
And you really started thinking about it a little bit, like you say, a couple months before, kind of thinking about what you might want to do.
Yeah.
So kind of tell me, what was your, or tell them, I guess, what was your plan? Like, what were your thoughts?
Initially, I've wanted to camp. I've wanted to do I've done a little bit of camping down there, but I wanted to just sort of find some places and camp and be kind of open-ended. And because I didn't have a lot of lead time, and this was like a May trip, I wasn't very successful in finding places I think I could camp. And a lot of people will just sort of stealth camp and, wait and see if they get asked to leave, and then they'll leave. I didn't want to roll the dice like that. I wanted to be a little more conservative, So if you look at some of the RV parks and things, they don't want a lot of tent campers because they can get a lot more revenue for their space.
Particularly in Florida.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that want to be down there in the winter. And so let's say the cooler 6 months of the year, there's a lot of people that want to snowbird down there. And so space is valuable. Camping space.
And, they have some amenities and they want to do the hookups and all that stuff. And a guy at a bike and a tent doesn't need much. It doesn't spend much, I guess, is maybe what
Doesn't stay long either, usually.
No, one night. Sometimes two if you really find a reason to stay and hang out.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing is I drove to Jacksonville, talked to the hotel Holiday Inn. I said, I'm going to leave my car for a few days. Is that okay? They said, hide it in back. So I did, and then I took off, went from Jackson from the hotel to the water and headed south.
So I think that's a great point that we should talk more about sometime. But we've had pretty great success just talking to the manager or the staff at a Holiday Inn or something like that.
Yeah.
And just telling them, hey, we want to bike for a few days. Would you mind if we leave our car here? I don't know if we've ever had anybody say, don't do it. Have we?
No, this time they were a little iffy, but I always make sure, if I can, to bookend it, have a stay on each end so they know you're coming back. They know you're gonna, you're kind of patronize the place a little bit. So no, I don't think I've had problems with that.
Yeah.
So
cool. All right, carry on.
So that's what I did. And then I and this bit me one time, I started using just the Expedia app saying, well, where am I going to stay? And most of the time it was fine. But every once in a while, you'll find that the Expedia confirmation number does not equal the Hampton Inn confirmation number or whatever. And so every once in a while, you're going to be left without a room.
Oh.
And it did happen to me once.
Okay.
So
Expedia says, hey, you got a room, you get there and you don't.
No. They refunded me. So that was good. I still didn't have a pillow, but I was able to find one. But
doesn't help you have a place to sleep that night, though, does it, when they refund you? You're like, I'd rather just have the room, please.
Great, I can book another room and wonder if I can go. But honestly, that's only happened once to me. I've heard about other folks tell similar stories, but they did refund me, and I was able to find another room that night. It was not top shelf tequila there.
Yeah, so you start in Jacksonville, did you say?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And what was your planned destination
Well,
when you first started thinking about it?
I had pretty lofty goals, which I failed to meet. You know, I had the time that I could have ridden all the way to Key West. And I thought, you know, if the stars align and I don't have any issues and I could get all the way to Key West and maybe go to Dry Tortugas, take the ferry, go skydiving, whatever, and come back.
Skydiving.
That's on my list.
Man, lofty.
In Key West. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
All right.
Not today, but it's going to happen.
So you were thinking East Coast of Florida. I'm just going to roll down and go as far as I can go. If I make it to Key West, maybe I'll take the ferry to Tortugas.
I did think about the connector that goes, through Orlando and over and back, but I abandoned. I just wanted to go along the water as much as I could, which is a pretty good plan because there's plenty of miles.
Gotcha.
Plenty of miles. And the other thing that's neat is you find these little tiny beach towns that you just didn't know about, you know, like Flagler Beach, and they're just neat. Places that you put in your mind, I'm going to come back here sometime and spend a few days.
Gotcha.
Because I was wanting to get some miles. I felt the urge to just sort of hit some pavement, you know?
Okay. So it's May. Do you remember the exact date?
Yeah, I was doing some homework.
Right.
It was May 12th through the 16th.
Okay.
And again, I had more time, but I truncated it to get.
Okay. So first day is May the 12th. You get there. You stay at the. You stay
That's
at
the
night,
first. So that's the first riding day.
night before you stayed at Holiday Inn. You get up, park car around back. Your objective is to ride to.
It was like I think I went to Cocoa Beach. I happened to look at my little list here, but it was about 80 miles.
80 miles.
About 80 miles a day for 4 days. 4 days each. Wow. So yeah, it was a commitment.
Because you're on the Fargo and you're carrying everything.
Yeah.
All your gear.
Not as much as when we're bike packing and camping. This was kind of a hotel room thing, but I took stuff. I was working. You know, I took a Surface, an iPad, chargers. You know, I keep some like a little cleanup kit, medications, a couple extra changes of clothes, you know, stuff like that.
So your plan was really to probably stay in hotels this whole time?
Yeah.
Okay, because campgrounds we're having difficulty with.
Yeah, and I did take a hammock that I didn't use.
Yeah.
You know, didn't take a lot of space, but you know, it's the Eno hammock folds up pretty.
And that was for lounging more than
Yeah, and I didn't.
emergency.
I didn't use it. I thought maybe I'll sleep one night in it if I really feel bold, but I ended up just getting a hotel each night.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're heading to Cocoa Beach? Is that what you
Well,
said?
the first one was Daytona Beach.
Oh, Daytona Beach. Yeah.
But it took me through one of my favorite Florida cities, St. Augustine, so I stopped. It's a longer day because I dallied. I had to stop and have lunch there and mess around. I love the old part of St. Augustine. Just always have.
Yeah, it's a very historic city.
Yeah, and there's always stuff to see. You know, there's a bunch of folks milling around doing goofy things by the fort, and you know, so you can be entertained pretty easily.
So what's the surface like? You riding on pavement this whole time?
Yeah, almost exclusively pavement. Once there in St. Augustine Beach, I did go to get on the sand a little bit. Yeah. I think it has photos of that and stuff. So I did go on the beach a little bit, and then I got back because then when you really want to make time, you just got to get on the pavement.
Gotcha.
So
all right. So tell us about day one. Any excitement?
You know, that was the day. No, not much happened on day one, I don't think.
Okay.
I think I was pretty much just enjoying things.
Yeah.
You know.
Just getting in the groove and finding your miles.
Yeah. And had a little bit of rain, and that's always when you kind of figure out your pace. If you're how much rubbernecking you're gonna do. You know, I didn't stop and, you know, really look at a lot of stuff. I would just stop, take pictures, and enjoy the water, rest at a picnic table, you know, lots of bike paths and bike lanes, and so I didn't have to really struggle for, you know, where to ride.
Yeah.
So
and just stop along the way and grab food, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, got a good sunburn. Did get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, then the next day, I think, I may have my facts a little bit messed up here, but I did go, that was Cocoa Beach. Next day I went to Cocoa Beach, which you get away from the water a little bit there, you know.
Okay, so that's Daytona to Cocoa Beach.
Yeah.
And that's another 80-ish miles.
That was 87.
87 miles. Boy, those are some long days.
Yeah.
But you were riding on pavement, but still,
Yeah,
so
it's not
some
bad.
long days carrying gear.
What I found though too, when I'm riding there, I don't know, I find there's lots of little micro rests. Because if you're on the bike lane, you stop at some stoplights.
Yeah.
And you just do that. And if it's hot, you're stopping to get, you know, Gatorade or whatever you're sipping on. And so,
What's the temperature that time of year there?
Man, I was in the 80s a bit.
Okay.
I was getting pretty warm for sure.
And you said sunburn, so I mean, obviously the sun.
Yeah, I always have the sunscreen on the bike. People point it out and laugh at because I keep it on the fork. They always say, "Hey, I like your sunscreen," and if you have sunscreen and bug spray, it's even more entertaining for people to ask you about.
Both of which can be necessary down there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but you stop it with all the stop lights because you're in the lane. So you'll have 3 rows of traffic here, your bike lane, and then a turn lane many times. So you might have cars on both sides. It took me a little bit to get used to that. But people just sort of stop and check you out, look at all your gear, and they just sort of, sometimes they'll give you the thumbs up, sometimes they'll just shake their head. So it's pretty fun in that regard. And then I started coming into the rain. Second day was a pretty serious thunderstorm. Twice it happened. And
Now, let me ask you what your philosophy on that is, because there are people that have rain gear and try to stay dry. Are you in that camp, or what was your attempt on this?
When I'm down there, I don't care about the rain. As long as it's not a hurricane, I'm fine, because it just doesn't get that cold. Yeah. Up here and it's rainy, in Missouri, you might be really out of luck.
Yeah.
If it's cold and rainy or windy, oh my God. Now there's wind down there, but it's just warm.
Gotcha.
The coldest I really experienced was when I arrived at my hotel that night, soaking, literally dripping, because it had just had a downpour. And they were about to close up the lobby. It wasn't it wasn't really a big hotel. And I was standing in the lobby dripping.
And what time is this?
It was like,
is it late, or?
I think it was about 9. Well, it had gotten dark, so it was probably 9.
9 at night. Okay.
Maybe right before if they close at 9. And I'm so apologetic. I go, man, I'll get the mop. I'll clean this up. He said, I was going to mop anyway. He was totally cool about it.
Huh.
And but it was air conditioning. So I'm standing in the cold there because, you're kind of coming down from your exercise heat, you're wet. And yeah, it was crazy. But I made a total mess of this poor guy's lobby. He didn't care. He was fine with it.
Yeah. So anything eventful that day?
That day? No, I don't think so. That wasn't anything crazy. Cool. Most of the nutty stories happened a little bit later, I think. No, I don't think that was the day. I don't remember when I was interrogated.
Okay. So you've had a couple of days of long 80-plus mile days.
Yeah.
Second day, you've got some rain. You're in hotel number 2 in Cocoa Beach, and that slips you into day 3.
Well, day 3 is where one of the infamous incidents happens.
Yes.
So this little hotel had a continental breakfast.
Now, what kind of hotel are we talking about here? Is it like a private, or is it a chain?
It was private. It wasn't a chain. It was a little tiny thing, almost a boutique thing with some. It was a motel, and they had a little pool area.
Was this booked on Expedia?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was right on the water, but it was dark and stuff. So I didn't go. It was raining, so I didn't go to the beach that night. So I got up early, packed stuff up, and I got my continental breakfast, a little honey bun, an apple, and a coffee. I was really looking forward to going and enjoying the sunrise in the morning over the Atlantic Ocean. So I walked down the little walkway, and there's a little gate. How these places have lots of little buildings and parts of their structure close together, and foliage and gates, and I walked to this gate, and I catch this guy by surprise. I just said hi, and I had my headphones in, so if he said something, I wasn't really sure if he did. So I just walk on past him, and he acted like he was going to say something. I was like, whatever. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. I get my headphones in, I'm listening to my music and going to the water, and then I go to this open area where there's the pool and the hot tub. It's 7 a.m., and there was a couple in the hot tub making babies.
At 7 o'clock in the morning?
7 a.m. It was.
Wow.
It was quite a scene. And then, and it was, the configuration was such that the guy was facing me, and his female participant was facing the other way. And I locked eyes with him and quickly just said, whatever. And I went casually, turned my head and walked to the fence with my back to them and continued to watch the sunrise. I was like, I'm not going to yield my little stretch of beach to these these happy fornicators. So
that's a great way to start the day, though. I'm sure you chuckled.
I did. I was like, what? Then I'm thinking, well, what do I do? Do I let them have their privacy? They obviously didn't care a whole lot because it wasn't dark. And I think the guy I startled was their lookout, who didn't really succeed. And so I'm like, well, I'll have a story to tell, and they'll have a story to tell.
That's great.
So I didn't yield my real estate. I just turned and looked at the sunset.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, that's a good start.
Thus begins day 3.
Thus begins day 3. That's eventful. So
yeah.
Moving along.
And
so where are you headed to day 3?
Let me look. Day 3 was
this is Cocoa Beach to
let me see. Cocoa Beach.
Obviously somewhere south.
To Port St. Lucie.
Port
Through
St.
Melbourne, which was another 80-mile day. And I believe it was in this day that I had stopped to do some work. I had some like phone conferences and things, and so I had devices and.
This is really the best of everything, Liz, when you can just
you can get
pull
some
over,
work done.
do some work, carrying all your stuff on your bike. What a way to actually get something accomplished.
A beautiful day, and if you luck out and find a place, forget the name or even where it was, but a little deli that has some Wi-Fi. So, if you have some sketchy cell phone reception, you still get your work done. Good food. People come by, they're kind of friendly because it's a sunny day and they're in Florida,
Yeah.
And it was great. It was really kind of fun. And so I got some work done, a couple hours. I sat there, and then wrapped it up and got back on the trail. And I had this was the day of the crash.
Oh,
this was the crash.
So talk to us about that.
I'm relatively famous in my circle, as you know, for crashes. And they're not crashes like me jumping over a car. It's just not Evel Knievel stuff.
Right.
This is just bad luck, bad judgment, And in this case, too much consideration for my fellow human. So I'm on a bike path. It's really a multi-use path. Pedestrians, bikes, rollerbladers, runners, And so I'm on the bike and I'm trucking because feeling good. I'm moving, and I see up ahead there's a guy walking this way toward me. He's got an abnormal gait. He's kind of a big guy, and I think, well, I'm just going to get off the pavement onto the grass and pass him. Go around, and then I'll get back because I figured it was a courteous thing to do. And I did that, passed him, and then the entrance back onto the pavement was not graceful. That's because it's not even.
Oh, okay. So there was like a little drop off there into the grass or whatever.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to get back on the multi-use path, concrete pavement, whatever.
And I knew it was there, and I knew it wasn't even. And I thought maybe I had enough of an angle, closer to not perpendicular, but less acute angle to enter, and I didn't have it calculated correctly at all. and I really, because sometimes when I'm doing this, I love forward motion. And sometimes I'm listening to some up-tempo music and I'm like, I'm going. And there's a lot of momentum with the bike that's loaded down with me and all the crap. And when I hit that sort of congruent, or I get discontinuity, I did a little Pete Rose off the bike, and I almost cleared the entire width of the pavement, but my elbow caught a little bit, and then my left leg caught a pretty good stretch of pavement.
You had some pretty serious road rash.
On
that left calf.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it was pretty remarkable.
And we're talking big patch, like probably what would you give? I mean, for the listeners who aren't watching the video, what would the size of it be?
Well, at least my palm.
Yeah.
And it kind of tapered off. So there was not so bad, real deep, not so bad. And it was cherry red. Yeah.
So did the guy who you gave birth, did he see any of this or even know?
Yeah. I'm sure he heard it. Who knows what I said? And then he turns around, and I'm sort of, I I'd land and I sort of got a little bit of the wind knocked out of me, and I sit up, take a couple deep breaths, and I would kind of take an inventory of me, and he comes toward me. He didn't get very close. I know, but it's because he's afraid of COVID, or he's afraid that I might turn violent, But he didn't do anything wrong, but he probably felt responsible. He said, "Man, I am so sorry." And I start moving everything. I'm like, everything moves. I'm okay. So we're good. And he's okay. And he continued to kind of amble back where he was originally headed toward. This happened to be in a pretty good spot because I was right across the street from a nicely located roadside park with water spigot. So I just got everything reassembled and went over there and, cleaned off and took some Advil. And
any damage to the bike or anything?
I don't think so. Just, the mirror always gets cockeyed and stuff. I had to just readjust a lot of the stuff that was on it, but I don't think much came off, really, amazingly.
Yeah.
So the less you carry, the less is going to fly off, I guess. And this wasn't a real heavy bikepacking trip, so I didn't have as much ballast.
Yeah.
On this.
So you go over to the roadside park, kind of wash up, clean up or whatever?
Yeah.
So did you put like, did you like put an antiseptic spray or like cream or anything?
All I had at that point was maybe I had some Neosporin, put some on there perhaps, but I had to make a stop at a pharmacy, and that creates a scene. Some guy, he's all scraped up, wandering in the CVS, buying his own bandages and stuff, and people just sort of look at you. And
this is after noon.
Yeah, it's probably 3 or 4 o'clock.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe not like quite that late, but
not like you're probably not, sweaty, and you're well into the day. I guess.
Yeah.
So
it's a hot day.
You might be looking a little disheveled, and obviously you just took a dive off the bike.
Yeah.
So you really look a little disheveled.
Yeah.
And you're wearing shorts, so when you're walking around CVS or whatever, Walgreens or whatever, everyone can see it.
With a black Nike tank top that's salty. You know what I mean? So I looked terrible. I did. I looked so bad. And but you gotta do what you gotta do. So I got all this stuff. I got the new skin spray and stuff, and that wasn't very far from my hotel.
That's good.
So I went to this hotel, and this guy, he was totally cool. He was kind of enamored with the fact that this wounded guy comes into his lobby to check in. There's a bike, and this guy is all scraped up, and
did you cover it with bandage or leave it exposed? What was your?
I covered it outside. What I did is I sprayed some stuff on there, and I tried to cover it, but I was still kind of sweaty, right? So I go inside and I tell the guy I got to check in, do this, and they had a restaurant right there that you couldn't sit in. They were all doing carry-out only. So I ordered some food, and while waiting for them to prepare it, I was fixing my leg. I tried to go to the corner and not be visible. The guy came over. He's like, "Man, what can I do for you? Can I get you some water?" And he got me a soda. He didn't make me pay for it, and it was great, totally
Nice.
cool. And so I got it. I got myself cleaned up and dressed my wound. Finally got in my room, took the food. It was quite a day, though.
Well, that's okay. So the recap of that day, you're going from Cocoa Beach to Port St. Lucia,
Yeah,
and you saw 2 people in a hot tub.
yeah. Repopulating some county,
the earth,
somewhere.
or at least involved in the act of repopulating.
Yeah.
While you're watching the sunrise, and then you take a dive and really mash, or not mash, but
mangle.
scrape the skin off of your left calf.
Yeah.
But you make it to your hotel.
Yeah.
I'm
With
sure.
Advil and
Well, there's several things that makes difficult though, like sleeping, showering.
oh yeah. Yeah.
Sunscreen. I'm thinking off the top of my head. I'm sure you experienced all these things.
What's funny is I didn't worry as much about that because the new skin kind of helped with some of that.
Okay.
But what happens is the following days is you sort of you sweat and different things happen, and to the covering, which some of it's cellular material, some just sort of healing matter. Then you put new skin on it because you're like, I don't want to ooze or bleed everywhere.
What is new skin? I'm not familiar
It's
with
just like a synthetic thing. It's like a bandage, It's like it creates a layer of artificial skin almost.
Okay. And
Maybe
just spray
I'm using the wrong name for it.
Oh, but you just spray it on basically. You
spray
can
it
buy
on
at the pharmacy.
Yeah, and then what it would do is it would dry, and then as you move, your your muscles get a little bit engorged with blood flow, and it would crack. It would crack, and it'd get goo, and I'd spray it again, and it made me look kind of like I had a Klingon leg. You know, it was something. And you mentioned though the difficulties. These hotels all have white sheets.
Yes.
And I'm very self-conscious about this. I don't want to leave like a massacre scene on their sheets, right? So I'm stripping the beds off, and I'm like, I'm wrapping my leg, and I'm putting out like I think I took a beach towel or something, and I was laying on some stuff that I had. I'm like, I just don't want to, I would feel bad about that.
Yeah.
And so I tried my best to make that manageable, which made for not great sleep.
I mean, you don't sleep well anyway,
No.
so that didn't help. But
Yeah.
not to mention you're exhausted. This is your third 80-plus mile day.
Yeah.
How far was the ride that day again?
Let's see, it was 80, 87, and 80.
Okay, so day three was 80 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're in Port St. Lucia. Mm-hmm. Anything else eventful that day that we?
I don't think so. I think that was it.
That's pretty eventful in and of itself. So
yeah.
Okay.
Let me go back now. It's next. So then, the next day 4 is when I went to Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, so Port St. Lucia to Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
How far is that?
That was 85.2 miles.
85.2.
Yeah.
Another big day.
Yeah, another big one. And so at some point here, and I can't remember, this may have been the day, it was hot. And they're all hot, and if you're like me, at some point this doesn't hurt anymore. And if it does, you Advil up or you get a drink or both, and you just go. And I'm looking terrible again. And I would stop and do some laundry and stuff. So every day was somewhat fresh crap that I was throwing on my body. But I come over this little bridge, and then there's a little, like a right turn that goes into almost nothing. Like it's like a blind asphalt thing. And there's a minivan sitting there. These two ladies, gals, young ladies, they had matching T-shirts and a sign on their van, and they're waving people down with cold bottles of water. And they see me come trucking along. They're like, hey, come on over. And so I'm like, sure, okay. I'll take a rest. And so I go over there, and they give me a cool bottle of water. So I'm drinking it, and we're talking a little bit. And they said, have you heard of the St. Vincent home? I'm like, no? What do you mean? I said, well, it's a place you can kind of come crash for the evening if you need a place to stay.
So basically, they think you're a homeless guy.
Yeah.
or you might just be looking for a place to sleep.
I just look like I need help.
It's a sweaty guy in a tank top
And
with
bandage.
and scarred up legs.
Bags on his bike. Yeah, and things dangling, right? And my speaker, my glasses case, sunglasses, and stuff strapped on it. It was something. So I'm okay. I appreciate it. I've got what I need right now. And
I like it.
Yeah, it was great. And then I went on down to Fort Lauderdale. And I can't remember exactly which all places that I had stayed, but this one, this is probably the place that my Expedia failed me.
Oh,
I think so. I think it was going to be a Hampton Inn, and they didn't have anything for me.
So how did you find this out when you go to check in? Basically, what time is this? Do you remember?
It's approaching sunset. It's not quite there.
So you go in and the guy says, "Hey, dude, I don't know who you are."
Yeah, it was a lady, and she's like, "Hey, can I help you?" And I looked kind of like we've described. And my bike is like I think I locked it up outside because I lock it everywhere. I'm real paranoid, and I can't have anyone stealing Gertie out from under me. So, and I go in, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm here for a room. I've got made some reservations." And she's like, "What's your name?" Whatever, and she's like, I don't have your name here. I said, "Oh my gosh, you're kidding me." And I give her a confirmation number, and she said, that's not even the right number of characters. I said, "Oh my gosh, this is Expedia thing." And she said, "Oh, we've had that before." And so she tried, but it was totally full. And she's like, "Just stay here, do what you need to get yourself." She gave me a little corner of the lobby to find a place to stay. So I rolled the dice, got back on Expedia. Well, I had called them. It says, "Is there anything you can do?" And what they did is credit me, whatever. And then I found a place Wasn't far away. It was probably less than a 10-minute ride, but it was not. It didn't appear like it was great, and it wasn't great. But it was a shelter for the night.
Yeah.
And so I went in there, and
maybe better than the St. Vincent house.
maybe
Whatever.
Yeah, who knows? That could have been great.
Yeah.
But I got checked in, and the lady was at the second place was kind of amazed that I wanted to stay there. I called. I said, "Do you have a place?" And she said, "Yeah." And I was prepared. I said, "Well, you want me to hold it with a credit card number?" She said, No. Just come on over. We'll be fine.
We're not the kind of place that takes credit cards.
And I'm thinking, this is going to be great. So I go in and
how many hours did you want the room, right?
right. So I get there and I'm like, I'm not going out for food. I ordered pizza and my thing is sometimes I'll order a pizza and a 2-liter bottle of soda.
Yeah.
And work on it. And if I have any left in the morning, I either leave it or I'll take it with me sometime.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And I slept again on like my beach towel and things.
Because you still have the oozing leg that's
that's
healing, but cracking and all that stuff.
Yeah. It looks like dried pavement. It's flood and drought.
Yeah.
It cracks in like a giraffe pattern.
Oh yeah.
So then that was the last of the long days.
Okay.
It was at this point that I decided, and I had some kind of personal stuff that had been made aware of that I was like, I probably just need to go home. I need to get back home and take care of some things. So I thought, well, I'm in, I'm what,
Fort Lauderdale.
300 miles from my car.
Yeah.
So my car.
You're in Fort Lauderdale. The car's still up in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Gotcha.
So I'm like, there's a place I love to stay. One of my other favorite cities in Florida is Hollywood Beach.
Yep.
So I'm like, I'll have a short day. I'll ride down to Hollywood Beach. I'll get a place, and I found a good place. I'd stayed there before.
The Riptide?
No, they were full.
Oh, okay.
So this is kind of
you often stay at the Rip.
the
this place
Riptide
called
is
the
one of my
Riptide.
faves. Yeah, absolutely. I'd go right now.
We should tell everybody that if you're not familiar with Hollywood Beach, it's this cool area that has like
They call it the Broadwalk.
the Broadwalk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's about 3 or 4 miles of shops and little houses and hotels, and it's just so much fun. It's like spring break year round, kind of.
Yeah.
It really is fun.
Yeah.
It's a little mini Bourbon Street kind of. Right on the water, like the shops, the Broadwalk, the sand, the water.
Yeah.
And scattered palm trees if you want to put up a hammock. It's dreamy. I just love it. So a place there, I've stayed before too, outside of the Rip. I've been there a million times. So I stayed at this other place. Told them I might need 2 days, and they were fine. And so, but getting there is a bit of a challenge. It was only a 26-mile day, but between Fort Lauderdale and Hollywood Beach is a cruise terminal and an airport, and you can't get there on the water. If so, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And so I spent a lot of time just sort of riding around trying to find a shortcut.
Navigating, trying to get around all the unauthorized areas.
Yeah, the
probably.
one-way streets and the chain link fences and so I ended up going the long way around, finally giving in and going on a road that I didn't feel entirely too safe on. I didn't have a bike lane, didn't have a lot of shoulder. Can't remember what road it was, but I was kind of glad to get off of it. I was tired. It's only 26 miles, but it was the end of a long, 5 days and wounded left leg.
Yeah.
So I got there and this is when I really thought, okay, I'm going to change everything. I was going to stay there an extra day, rest and goof off, but I thought, I'm just going to get a one-way rental and then
car, truck, van? What?
It was a little SUV.
Okay.
I can't remember. It was like a little Nissan.
Probably something we should talk about to the listeners and the viewers is about some of the things we've talked about doing with regards to that. And you've done it a couple times where a great place to rent a car is at an airport. Let's face it.
Yeah.
The best place because they've got so many cars there.
Yeah.
So if you can get into the airport to get a rental, get a one-way rental back to another major city that might have an airport or someplace to turn it in, and then just ride your bike back to wherever your car's parked.
Yeah.
It's an easy way to do it.
It's a real, we'll call it a logistical pearl. And I got a rental at a place that was real close to the airport there. And then I took it up to Jacksonville Airport. And I've done, as you say, I've done this a couple times. And sometimes you feel well and you're like, okay, I can take the bike out and ride from the airport, car place to your hotel. Sometimes you're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. So you can Uber, get your car and come, whatever. So I did a little mixture of riding and Ubering when I did that. So I got up early and I Ubered to the car rental place, got the car, went back to the place I was staying, and then I talked to the manager, said, I'm sorry, I'm going to leave early. I got to get home. And kind of took some of this stuff off the bike, change it, and shove it in the back seat and take off.
Yeah.
And then I stayed the night at Jacksonville when I got there. But what I did when I got there that night is I think I turned in the car, Ubered back to my place, and then I stayed the night and left.
Yeah. It's a great story. It's one of the reasons I wanted to go back through it, because we hadn't talked about it. And I think sometimes people wonder, how do you guys plan these trips? How do you think about these trips? How do you execute one? Mm-hmm. And I think it's a great thing to keep in mind that you can drive to a location, find a hotel, talk to them about leaving your car safely at those places, which is usually a pretty good place to leave a car. And they'll let you leave a car, do your ride, find a rental, stay in some different places, find a rental to get you back to your car that's a one-way rental or something like that.
Yeah.
And that way you don't have to do round trip. We've talked about this, that round trips are sometimes, they're not great just because you're going back the way you just came. And if your objective is to see
things,
the landscape or whatever.
Yeah.
So out of all of that, what do you think what were your favorite highlights of the trip?
Really, a couple of just simple things. Like I love the little towns like it was Boca Raton. That was neat to go through. I think that's the one. Flagler Beach. Just stopping to getting a snack and a soda or something there, because they're just neat little places, I like this little place. There's a little bridge. It's called Sebastian Inlet. It's gorgeous. And maybe it was just the right time of day. The sun was perfect. Just this blue-green water right under the little bridge. People kind of fishing. It was almost worth it just to kind of cross the elevated bridge and see that. There was a time too that I was getting ready to cross a big drawbridge, and I stopped at they get pretty tall. And I was resting and maybe having a Cliff Bar or something, and this swarm of cyclists comes by. It was like a law enforcement ride, and there were hundreds. Apparently, it looked like hundreds of riders just going. And a lot of them had these blue jerseys, kind of custom made for that event. And they had motorcycle escorts, and they went over the drawbridge and stuff. And I was waving, honking, and so I just got sat and watched that. That was neat too. That was really cool. And then when I was done, they'd gone by, rested a little bit, and then I made the crossing.
Yeah,
that was cool.
I think that sometimes that's one of the benefits of bikepacking or bike touring, credit card touring, whatever it is you enjoy doing, is that if you really get an opportunity, because you are forced to be at that pace, you really get an opportunity to see and soak up things a little bit more than you would if you flew by on a car. Yeah. Or if you're on an interstate, obviously, or whatever. You're just going to see things that you won't see anywhere else.
Yeah. Or if you have an itinerary of some sort.
Yeah.
You can slow down. See it. Yeah. I didn't really, besides the two ladies that gave me some water and the hotel lobby folks, I didn't really interact with a lot of people. You know what I mean? It was kind of just a solitary, I'm going to get up and ride, enjoy the ride, stop where I want to stop. I dallied a little bit, like I say, in St. Augustine and places. It was great. I need to do some of those once in a while. Just get away and kind of shrink into myself, but still engage the world at your own pace.
And we've talked about this recently too. I know you were doing big days, mostly 80 plus mile days, but you don't have to do 80 mile days to still get out and enjoy these. You can do a 20 mile, 30 mile day, a 40 mile day, a 60 mile day. Go at whatever pace you feel comfortable. Take time and stop and enjoy a lunch or a breakfast or a look at the sunrise with some funny things going on in the background. Maybe. Just take a minute to soak it up. But at the same time, don't feel like you have to make 100 miles or 80 miles in a day.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't want that to be, that should be the message. You don't have to do that. That was sort of on my agenda.
Yeah.
Why, it's hard to explain why. That's kind of sometimes what I want to do.
Yeah.
But to be honest, the final day, that was 26 miles, was more exhausting because, you know, I thought I was going to get there and I had to keep, you know, kind of redirecting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not always about the mileage either. It's about what you're doing and, you know, but it was fun. It was definitely fun.
Awesome. Any final words of advice or encouragement or whatever?
No, well, just, you know, kind of, if you think it, you can probably do it. That's really it. You know, you throw a dart at a map and then just, you know, we have Google and Google Maps and all kinds of other things. Just check it out. You can probably find a way to do it.
Yeah, but we've got so much amazing stuff. I mean, just from being able to book fine rooms with a phone that you carry around with you and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible what we can do now.
The apps,
yeah.
Expedia, even the 25% failure rate in my case.
Right.
Or 20%.
Right. All right. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening along or watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, we do have this on YouTube. Links in the description. We also have this on Anchor FM, who distributes this free of charge. Thank you, Anchor and Spotify, their parent company now, for distributing this to all the major podcast apps that are out there. So if you haven't subscribed or follow along, please do. If you leave us a review, that would be great because it helps us get found more frequently out there. If you have questions, feel free to leave a comment. And thanks for following along.
Yeah.
We'll see you again soon.